Hello everybody, welcome to the Back to Front show with me, your host Liam Browne. This is a show where basically we get to turn the tables on Midnight Bride. So he's on the other side of the table, he's getting asked loads of questions that he's not seen before, so it's all a little bit of improvisation for Midnight, but I'm sure he's going to rise up to the challenge. How's it going?
All right, Liam, yeah. Bit nervous, but yeah, all good.
Bit nervous?
Yeah, well, I never quite know what's coming.
No need to be nervous, brother. It's all good.
No.
I've just basically, I think for me, like a lot of the questions that I'm going to ask you today come up from reading your book and
good
from our last podcast. So, I think firstly, thanks for offering me the opportunity to interview you.
Wanted to get you back in the studio.
Yeah. It's been amazing. It's been amazing to get to know you a little bit more deeply since we did the show, which is nice.
And you were one of the people that suggested doing this exact thing. And first time I thought, I'll think about it. But 4 or 5 people came back to me and said, how's about we flip the tables? And I thought, yeah, all right, let's do it.
When I was reading your book, when we were doing the interview and, Pills to Peace, Dealer to Healer, there was a lot of similarities with our story, which you picked
Massively,
up on in our show. But I think something that was at really the heart of both our stories, even though it's probably not talked about as much in my book, is the Manjushri Buddhist temple.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to ask you kind of, how did you become a Buddhist? Because you class yourself as a Buddhist, yeah?
That's right, yeah.
How was the process of becoming a Buddhist?
Yeah, well, I wanted to learn how to meditate. I always wanted to learn. And a lot of the places that I'd looked at for meditation, there were courses in a few weeks and maybe in a few months even, and they were expensive. And I'd had a nervous breakdown and I was desperate, and I really needed to learn how to switch my mind off. That was, that's been my problem, half my life, is the fact that my mind is overactive and, I didn't have the skills to deal with that. And so I overthink everything, became depressed, angry, all of these things. And then it was a bit of synchronicity and alignment. I actually went for a day out in the lakes. We drove past Manjushri by accident. Yeah. And I thought, I've seen that place. I remember seeing a post about it or something. So we went in and there was a course starting the following week on the Friday. And it just all fell into place. And with the meditation came the Buddhism. Now, I never went there to learn Buddhism. I never wanted to become a Buddhist. I wanted to learn how to meditate, but the two just go hand in hand. You'll know about this as well. You've recently done an interview, haven't you, with a Buddhist nun?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Again, Lechog.
Yeah.
Whose name I couldn't pronounce.
I know. I kept forgetting because it's not a Dave, a Tom, an Anne and a Peter. Cho Sang, Sang Chen, Yangden. At first, you just can't get the names. You can't get them. It takes lots of practice, and they all sound the same, so. But... yeah, so I wanted to learn how to meditate. The Buddhism was a secondary thing that I sort of learnt whilst I wanted to learn how to meditate. That came with it, and I just took to it. And I thought, actually, this is the first... it's not a religion, it's a school of thought, theology, whatever you want to call it. But it was the first thing that made sense. Men and women are treated equally. They don't persecute gays and they don't judge people because of their sexuality. You're not going to hell. It doesn't matter what religion you are. Everybody shows compassion and love. I mean, that all makes sense to me. All the other religions I'd seen, although in the core, I think in their essence, they're all good, certainly initially, they have parts of them that just don't make sense to me, like why a man could be a priest and a woman couldn't at one point, or why, certain Christian faiths judge people if they're homosexual, or why you're going to hell if you don't do this and stuff. You're not. You make your choices and that's it. Good or bad. So, it made sense. And that's the doorway into it for me.
I think that's what appealed to me about it, was just like that real harmony and balance in the, it being a religion. But it doesn't feel like a religion, because religion's something that seems to be forced down your throat, or like, they're not trying to convert you when you go there. It's just like...
and I remember being in church as a kid, you ask a priest a question and he doesn't like it, especially because I was a clever dick and he couldn't answer them, And and it was easy to pull the story. I thought, this doesn't make sense. Hang on, I can pull this to shreds. Second time, you're getting a clip round the ear, or you're going to the headmaster's office. So they didn't invite debate. A Buddhist will sit down and invite debate. They want to tell you because what they're saying, it's sort of bulletproof. It makes sense. So why not discuss it? Why not question it? And
they don't get angry with you.
Not at
They
all.
just talk to you.
No.
So it's none of this like friction, and you create more friction, and it builds and builds, and one of you explodes. It's just like...
All my life, I'd never felt inner peace. And the first time I went on a retreat, I left that retreat and I felt bliss and I felt inner peace. And I'd never felt that before. And that was a game changer. Then I thought, I don't know exactly what's happened. I'm not quite sure how this works, but I need more of that in my life. I need that, you know, because that's going to save my life.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that's what's exquisite. Like, we both had these life-changing moments at
Yeah.
Manjushri. Mine was...
I love the way you say it. Say it again.
Manjushri. How'd you say it?
Manjushri.
Manjushri.
I think
Manjushri.
Mine's the Bolton twang.
We're only half an hour away from each other as well. It's different up here, mate. It's different up here, mate. No, just like to have profound life-changing experiences at the same place. I'm guessing there's thousands of people who've had profound life-changing experiences there.
That's what life's about. It's not about accumulating stuff. It's about experience. Because, you know, you lie on your deathbed and you say, well, you know what? I've lived. I've had experiences. I've loved. I've laughed. I've experienced pain. I've had, you know, an awakening. I've experienced spirituality and things like this. You don't want to say, well, I've got 6 cars, 4 houses. Well, so yeah, but are you happy? You know.
And I remained angry for 45 fucking years.
And I'm all bent and twisted, but I'm loaded.
Yeah, exactly. Man, exactly. It freed me up. That was the thing. It got rid of it made me realise that there was choice to my anger, and I'd never been given that. And I felt like a stone lighter when I left there.
Yeah, it's so empowering when you realise, oh, actually, I chose that. Oh, well, if I chose it, then I can make a different choice. Oh, hang on, I'm in charge. I'm the creator. I'm the manifester. And you realise, and then you realise you can do anything. You know, anything is possible. You know, you're in charge. Yeah.
Totally. So, being a Buddhist, when does that, like, when did that kind of... Did you get a certificate, or is that just a choice you make psychologically, like intellectually, like to say, I am a Buddhist?
Yeah, it took me a long time. It took me a long time to say it, because I used to go in secret for a long time. And there was even a Buddhist centre in Bolton here. I think it's still there. And I used to attend, but I'd sneak in. I didn't want people to see me at first, you know. But then I did, not everybody does, but I took what they call your Buddhist Act for vows, you know. So you're going to make choices in your life that you're going to promise that you're going to try and behave like a Buddhist Tattva, you know, and you're going to show compassion, and you're going to show discipline and make good choices and all of these things. And I very seriously considered going down the path of, you know, becoming a monk. And I went on many, many retreats there. I'd lost count. I got past 30, you know. I was there all the time, once a month at least, for a week or 2 weeks. I was just there all the time. And there's no qualification, nothing like that. Obviously, if you become ordained and you become a Kelsang, a lot of people actually teach Buddhism and aren't ordained. They're a lay person.
They just wear a normal shirt, don't they?
Yeah, they just wear normal gear, yeah. But, so no qualification, anything like that. But I suppose if I listed all the retreats I'd done and all the courses I'd done, I studied Geshe Kelsang Gyatso's texts and literature for a long time.
And you can see it in your face, man. It's like... you're awake and alive. And
good. Well, I feel it. Last time we did the interview, we talked about this earlier, because we just had a really nice healthy shake, and I had a falafel because you hadn't eaten. And we talked about the fact that last time we did the show, even though it was a great show and everything, I wasn't feeling good. I was out of sorts. I've been out of sorts for a few days. This time, today, I played you a dance tune in the car on the way here called Good Love, and I'm feeling awesome today. I'm feeling really good. I feel recharged, energised. I feel like... And this will tell you something. When you're in a state of bliss, focus, manifest, because things happen. I was outside before and I was thinking, how am I ever going to make this pay? You know, because at some point, you know, it needs to sustain itself, what I do. And then within literally 1 minute, I walked outside and somebody says, oh, what do you do? And I said, oh, well, I have a studio over there and we film. She says, oh, we've just been doing some promotional videos, you know, for the HR department and stuff. She says, but we've got a noise of a washing machine in the background. I said, oh, well, you know, you could come in and I'd do it with you in the studio. And I think they're going to come in and do some filming in here. Awesome. That happened within a minute of me having this thought. And it just, and I know it's because I feel good. Because I quite often feel good, but not this good. I'm on fire today. I know I'm shining. I know I'm shining.
I'm shining.
Yeah.
Shining, baby. I thought you were shining last time, mate. I was, you know, it's something that, like, I think in the spiritual community as well, or just in life, there's, you know, some people might have cancelled that show that we did because they were feeling a bit rubbish. There's certain things where you have to just power through. Like I had a situation on I think it was Tuesday night where I was just really, I'd woke up, I hadn't slept well, I'd had a couple of business meetings, and I was supposed to be doing something in the afternoon, and I knew that I could do that thing tomorrow, so I just said to my friend, is it okay if we cancel and push it to tomorrow? And he was like, yeah, and I just got in bed at like 4:00 in the afternoon, gave myself permission and just rested, and then got up the next day. It was fantastic. You know what I mean?
Important to do that, yeah.
Felt amazing. It's just kind of listening to the rhythms of the body a little bit.
I was never going to cancel that last show because I wanted to meet you. That's it. I wanted to meet you, you know. I thought, can he really be as shiny and bubbly as is, you know, portrayed on social media? And you excelled yourself. You exceeded my expectations.
Cheers, brother. Try. That's just my natural state. You know what I mean? It's like to piss about, have a laugh, enjoy things, not take anything serious. It's just a computer game at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all a dream.
Try and get better levels, level up, and better powers.
Yeah.
By the practices that we're doing. So the next question was, so spiritual awakening. What would be the biggest baseball bat around the head that, boom, was like, okay, this is the moment. I know now that I've got to change.
Probably when I had the nervous breakdown. I can recall the day, and I've had two. So I've not had one, I had another one. But I remember, I can tell you about both briefly. The first time I was working in Wales, and I was running a tunnelling project in Wales. And I was highly stressed, very unhappy, getting no sleep. Because I was so unhappy, I had a very unhealthy diet. I wasn't exercising properly. I was taking steroids at the time, you know. So things weren't going well. I got angry. I was an angry man, you know what I mean? I might seem nice like that, but the point, the trigger for me to snap was so delicate, you know. And, I shouted a lot and all of these things. Anyway, one morning I woke up and I couldn't move. And I thought, what's going on here? And then I just broke down. I was crying. And it was at that point I thought, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. So I quit my job that day, just quit my job. And then for a long period, I didn't go outside. I didn't see anybody. And I had to do some serious fixing, you know, some self-healing and try and put myself back together. But in order to do that, you have to dismantle everything that's in place initially. So you have to go through that process. It's like somebody's died, you're grieving, and, you know, you physically, it was very difficult. Having a wash, you know, when you're really, really depressed and down, you've had a breakdown, the basic functional things you do on a daily basis, having a wash, clean your teeth and stuff, become difficult. You don't even want to move.
Looking in the mirror, you don't want to look at yourself.
You just stare into space, into empty space, and just think, what's the point? You know, what is the point in this? But there is a point. The second time, a few years later, I thought I'd cracked it all, but I was doing what I love, but I ended up having to go back onto a construction site. So I was working a job from, 6 in the morning till 6 at night, getting up from 2 till 6 in the morning, writing, 6 at night, doing classes, meditations, workshops, weekends as well. And there was no, I was getting 2 hours sleep a night, and I did that for a long time. And again, I folded. I remember in a car park, I just had a breakdown in the car, sat on my way to work. 3 or 4 hours passed. I was just crying in the car, and I'd lost track of time. Had disappeared. I looked down, and I thought it was 15, 20 minutes. 4 hours had passed, and that was, I quit my job, and I had to thought, I've got all out of balance again. Got it all wrong. Both of those moments were a wake up call where you think, especially the second time, because once you've had a nervous breakdown, you think, oh, I've got this. It won't happen again. It can happen. It can happen twice, 3 times. Walt Disney had, I think, 7 nervous breakdowns. Especially if you're passionate about what you're doing, it's all about balance, isn't it? As you'll know.
Totally, and that's something I'm kind of in my own life searching for at the moment, because a lot of new things are happening, and it's like, okay, I've got to find moments where I can rest. Do you know what I mean? Moments where I can recoup, because it's important. I'm doing a lot of energy work, and it's like, okay, I know that after a ceremony, I need the next day off to just rest and do nothing.
Well, I was doing 7 days a week again, jumped into the 7-day week thing, and I was doing that for a few weeks. I'm back to, I am working on Saturdays, and I do come in the office on Sunday morning for 1 hour, but Sunday is pretty much my sacred day, and I have to come in, just literally there's one thing I do on a Sunday, it takes me an hour. Beyond that, that's my day, and I switch off, and whatever it is, it'll wait. you know, the world away. I have to have a bit of downtime, you know, I've got to factor that in.
Totally. Yeah, it's important. It's just,
Yeah.
and then when new things
Self-care.
come in, it's like little things will trigger it. And sometimes people will say to me, oh, you need to do this. And it's not until I'm ready to hear that I'll go, I need to do that. And it's not, I'm taking credit for this idea.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's when I feel ready that it feels, okay, yeah, she's right. I need to rest, you know.
An example of that is I know somebody that read the book The Secret, which is a great book, but read it, didn't get it, didn't like it, anything. 2 years later, picked it up, changed their life. They just weren't ready.
Exactly.
You know, you if your door isn't open, if you're not ready to learn those lessons or receive, then, you know, you have to be ready, don't you? They say, only when you're ready, the teacher will appear.
Totally.
You know?
And only will something resonate, and the vibration of it resonate with you when your vibration's at that vibration, you know.
Exactly.
There's films you watched when you were a kid, you're just like, what? And you watch it now and you go, okay.
Hey,
You know,
exactly. Yeah. And there's also films I watched when I was a kid that I thought were awesome. I'd watched again, I thought, I can't believe I watched that crap.
What film?
It's called House. It's a horror film. And I remember
Okay.
watching it at school and I thought it was fantastic. And I watched it again and it's the worst film, you know, but there you go.
So the next question is about tunneling, because it you know, it's so far removed from what you're doing. Like, I worked on building sites, but tunneling's another. It's like another world. It's almost like being a miner, innit? You know.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you finish your question. Go on. Yeah.
No, I just wanted to know. Obviously, a lot of that. Looking back, it was an element of, it was so intense that it made you wake up. But is there any things where you look back and you go, actually, that was a really good lesson from that I've learned that I can take, you know, because I sometimes revert back to football training, you know what I mean, and little practices and disciplines that I learned that I regurgitate them in my yoga classes. Is there anything like that came from tunnelling?
Along with tunnelling, I've worked on nuclear power stations, football stadiums, bridges, motorways, viaducts, tunnels, lots of large civil engineering projects. And what came from that perhaps is, if you come into the studio here, you'll see it runs quite smoothly. You know, I try and make it very professional, very organised. And you come in, you arrive, you get your briefing, we go through the notes. I give you a quick heads up on how things are done. I operate everything. That element of something running like clockwork comes from working in the construction industry, running big projects, because, you know, they have to run like clockwork. And so
someone will die.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Yeah.
And I've been on sites where people have, not sites I've been running, I will say, but where people have been badly injured or died, you know, and it's terrible. But on sites I've been running, there's never been anybody seriously injured. And you have something running smoothly. And so there's very little room for error as well. If you're doing a tunnel and you're a foot that way and you're tunnelling from two sides, for example, then you've got a problem, haven't you?
Channel tunnel, you just go past each other. I can't get to you yet. Where are you?
Well, what it is, we've got two tunnels now. But so I'd say there's some positives I could draw from it, but not many, to be honest. I'm glad I'm not doing that at the moment. You know, it makes me ill. I don't like it.
But I guess then the quality that you've said is just your organisation. It's give you that organisation.
Yeah, I think that comes from me, not the industry, but it taught me how to apply it.
Yeah,
you know, when you've got lots of machines, lots of men, lots of things happening, it's got to run smoothly. So there's a lot of planning, programming, organisation involved. So I practiced those skills over the years.
Yeah. The next question, which I guess again comes from the tunnelling, and I experienced this when I was working on building sites, where you talk in your book a lot about severe anxiety. Yeah. And I had severe anxiety. And I couldn't even talk to people on site. I was like, it was just like there was nothing. I was like, where's whatever's been inside me my whole life? Where's it gone? And trying to reconnect with that. So is that what you would classify as severe anxiety?
Yeah, I mean, when you're really anxious, and I still have days like that, they do happen. If I'm anxious, I don't want to see anybody. I don't want to be around anybody. Now, I know you need to talk about it and tell people, and I do have those people around me now. If I'm not feeling great, there's one or two people I can tell, but I don't. When I'm not feeling good, I don't want to give that energy out to the people. I don't want them to know that I'm not feeling good, and I don't want to engage. So yeah, when you're feeling anxious, you don't want to those skills, you just become I become very introvert.
Yeah.
You know, and on a construction site, for me, I think if you're doing anything that you don't love, you're slowly dying. It's killing your spirit. Plucking a flower and then you start to wilt. Do something you love, and it's like the sun's shining on you, and you know you're bathing in bliss, and it's beautiful. So, for a construction site, for me, I don't want to be there, and I start to get this sense of dread and this deep anxiety, and it's horrible when you're spending all your time every day doing something that you have no interest in and you don't want to do.
And you're just doing it for money.
You feel like you're dying. I do. I feel like I'm slowly dying inside.
And you feel that from a lot of people. There's not a lot of sparkly light people around in them spaces.
It's a very male-orientated, egotistical,
aggressive,
deceitful, aggressive, horrible environment. You know, there are exceptions always. You know, there are some nice people, but the majority go around shouting at people. They think they're all this because you know, I'm in charge of 100 men, and you think you're all this and that. When really you're not. You're a bit of a dick. And sometimes I've had to work with these people for long periods, and like I said, there are some nice people. They're not all like that.
If you get this spout of anxiety, is there like something a specific practice that you'll bring in to get yourself out of that state, or do you just let it pass?
Depends how severe it is. If it's not too severe, then quite often, if you can just remove yourself for a brief period, or just focus on your breathing and try and switch off from external events, and not let that influence your inner emotional state, it does pass. It always passes, you know. This too will pass.
Exactly.
But if it's severe anxiety, then I need to, whatever I'm doing, I have to stop what you're doing, disconnect, remove myself and fix myself. And that can take a little while, you know. Yeah. If anybody's feeling anxiety, especially if it's constant, it's a really terrible thing. It's, you know, you feel sick, you can't eat, you can't digest your food, you're not sleeping well. When you don't sleep, there's lots of other health problems, and it spirals. So, yeah, don't be afraid, no matter what situation you're in, because people quite often say, but I have to do this, or I've got to do this. And you don't. Your health, your mind, everything else is more important. Sometimes just stop what you're doing. Just pause, stop, and say, how do I feel? And if you really don't feel good, you need to stop and move away. Not just stop temporary, you need to move away. You need to make another plan. You need to change direction.
What's really beautiful about the lockdown is what you were just saying then. People had to stop. So many people have woke up. So many people have had to stop and gone, what the fuck have I been doing for 10 years?
Yeah.
Jesus, it's like you've come out of lots of people are still in it, but it's just like a veil's been lifted. You're like, oh my God, I've just been running around like a blue-ass fly.
Yeah, I say that in the book, you know, a lot of people are on a conveyor belt and you don't know you're on the conveyor belt. You're running at 100 miles an hour and you have no time to look at anything or do anything, so you can't see the wood for the trees. Then, if you're lucky, you realise and get off, but usually you get thrown off. And then when you lay on the floor in a mess, you look back and you think, oh my God, I've been on that treadmill all this time. You gain perspective and clarity. And at that point, you never want to get back on. And that's why there's been so many people change career recently in lockdown. A lot of people, you know, their work environment's changed and they've had a little bit of time, maybe, some people, to reflect on what they're doing and thought, I don't want to do this. You know?
And a lot of people have had spiritual awakenings because
massively.
It's been so many. Because I've had people come into my ceremonies before March. I didn't believe in any of this shit. And March really, you know, I couldn't go out with my mates Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I really had to look at myself and I started investigating. And you're like, that's fucking amazing. It's been an amazing year.
If you put the telly on, I say to everybody, put the telly on, have the BBC pumping it out, the propaganda and news, if you know, they call it that. And you listen to that and you could believe that's what's actually happening. Turn the television off, go outside, stand in nature, pause for a moment, look around and breathe, and you think, there's nothing wrong. And then also talk to people, rather than listen to that, talk to other people who are like-minded, who are awake, and you'll realise that's actually not what's going on. That's what they want you to think's going on. That's what you want you to believe. But the reality is there's a very different picture.
Yeah, exactly. Go speak to the people whose mouths you can see and who are smiling. Let's go back to Midnight's childhood. Let's have a little journey back there. Okay. How was that? Was it a standard upbringing, or
I'd
what
say
was going on?
Definitely not. In and out of Africa, lived in Africa for periods, came back with her for a few months, came back for a few months, moved around in lots and lots of different houses. I'm not saying I wasn't loved, but obviously there's not a lot of stability.
And was this because of your father's job?
Well, yes, that's why we're in Africa.
Yeah.
But the moving houses was to do with doing houses up, you know, and then getting another one. So again, I suppose through my father's job. Yeah, flipping houses, basically. So by the age of 15, excluding Africa and staying at relatives and other things, I'd still been in about 15 different houses. And it's a real number, we counted. And like if you count other places, it's more. But and Africa, in and out of Africa.
So he was never settled as a child?
No, not at all. No, I never formed... You know, I didn't stay at school very long. I went to lots of different schools.
So the houses were in different areas as well, typically?
Well, yes. Majority they're in Bolton, but each time I moved, I'd swap schools. I went to, I don't know, 3 or 4 primary schools, 2 secondary schools, and so on. Yeah. But, yeah, I also as a kid, I think a lot of kids, I always felt a bit different. I was about the mind, you know. You know, at quite a young age, I was reading books about self-hypnosis, and I was fascinated by the mind, and I wanted to move objects and experience telepathy and telekinesis, and
Brilliant.
all about the mind. Yeah. But yeah, on the whole, a fairly happy childhood, I think you'd say. Yeah.
But I guess, you know, certain issues there, moving school, it's giving you anxiety all the time because you've got to make new friends. But did you kind of eventually get used to moving schools and relax into it, or was it always as traumatic?
It was never great, but I think the first time you're heartbroken, the second time you're heartbroken, after that you think, I can't keep doing this. And so you develop non-attachment. And that's why I'm the way I am. People come in and out of my life, and even if they're no longer in my life, I have a skill set where I can pretty much get over it quite quickly. It's survival, because that's what I had to do.
When you were going through your dark periods, like your nervous breakdowns, your depressions, was when you was coming out of it, was there things that you realised from your childhood that you needed to heal? Was there specifics?
Well, yeah, that's a difficult question to answer. But yeah, I think going through my teens, I was miserable. I started being miserable in my teens. You know, that started quite early on. And the drugs came along, and the drugs were always, for me, obviously it was fun at first. You know, for a long time it was fun. But predominantly, I drank and took lots of drugs because I was miserable. You know, that's why a lot of people do it. You know, they think they're happy and they're partying at the weekend. The reality is, when I'm really happy, I don't drink much and I don't take drugs.
Exactly.
You know, when I'm miserable, I don't take recreational drugs now anyway. You know, plant medicines I see is different anyway. But yeah, I drink very occasionally now. This year I've been out and drank twice. If I was miserable, I'd probably drink more, but because I'm generally happy, I don't need to drink. I'm happy.
Yeah. Awesome.
I don't need to drink to be happy, and I don't need to drink because I'm not happy. I just drink occasionally. If I'm in the company, I think, I'll have a drink this time, you know. And I enjoy it then. It's fun. I still have hangover, though.
I've not been drunk for fucking, God, no, I don't know how many years. I don't remember the last time I had an hangover.
There was a group of...
Can't handle them.
And, oh, no, it's a week. It's a week. I can't run, I can't train, I can barely function. I drunk twice this year, been out and actually drank. And I met 4 friends. We hadn't seen each other some of us for 20 years, a long time. And we met up, and I got stinking drunk. And we had great fun, but for 2 or 3 weeks after that, I couldn't function. I was a mess. You know, I think when you don't put the poisons and the toxins in, your body gets, sort of puts itself back together again, and you're this pure being, and then you put the toxins in again, and if you're not taking them on a regular basis, your body's forgotten what they're like, and it can't fight them off, and you've got this severe contrast of feeling good and feeling like death.
It's so funny to me to think that you used to be violent for money. You used to be a steadhead. Like when I met you, you're so calm-mannered, and you start telling me you used to batter people for money. I'm like, this guy? Do you know what I mean? What? It's like, it seems so far removed from who you are now. Yeah. Where did that all come from? Where did the violence start?
Well, I remember it started in my teens. But when you're angry as a young man, that's predominantly why violence occurs. It's an emotion you can't control, and it comes out in a physical form. And I was incredibly angry, and I was brought up that men are tough, men are strong, and you don't show your emotions, and it was a good thing to be tough, you know, and if there was a problem, you beat somebody up, you know. My granddad, rest his soul, was notorious. He was like one of the toughest guys in the north of England at the time. I mean, that level, you know, he was famous. And it was just, it's how I was conditioned, and it was completely normal. You have a problem, you give somebody a good hiding, you know. And when it first started off...
Which, it's normal where we're brought up in.
And when I started off, initially in my teens, I got a couple of good hidings, you know, and then one day I just stood up and decided, and I give somebody else a good hiding, then, well, not a good hiding, hit him a few times. I thought, well, that feels better than getting hit. I'll do that from now on. And then I got quite good at it, you know, and I probably, it's not good, but it happened.
It's all part of the path. It's all led you to it. It doesn't matter what's happened in our path. It's who we are now. It's like, I've done horrific things, and my dad's done horrific things, and it's if we come from a place of forgiveness, we've got to forgive ourselves for those things that we did as well, and actually be grateful of them because they've led us to who we are now.
And I think a big part of it's ego as well, because I had a huge ego, and some people were my friends, and you know, we got on great, but other people's knew, you know, if I went in a club or something, everybody knew who I was, and some were a bit frightened of me, you know, and I knocked around with all the gangsters and all this kind of business. And
so did you like that?
At the time, yeah. But I didn't like people being frightened, to you know, but
people
I liked the notoriety. I liked walking in, and I'd never queue up. I'd always go to the VIP. I'd be throwing money around. Everybody knew I was synonymous with drugs. And, I had a reputation. And, I think, well, the other thing, if we're being truthful as well, as we talked about before, I used to, you know, not now, but when I was younger, I slept around a lot. I slept with lots of women. And that part of that ego, that deal, you know, some women like that, you know, so that was... Yeah, it was a messed up time, but
there's a lot of women like the bad boy.
Yeah,
and it's so funny that we, you know, obviously I'm a yoga teacher, and we just in that few sentences there we touched on. We've got the yamas and niyamas. I don't know if you must have heard of them. So the first yama is ahimsa, non-violence. Yeah. Second yama is satya, truthfulness, and the fourth yama is brahmacharya, chastity. So you know, controlling our urges, not overdoing certain things, and it comes a lot into sexual nature, you know, not sleeping around, sleeping with people, you know, you can still make love to people, but you have an energetic connection with. I guess what you're talking about was same thing that was going on for me, because you're in this macho environment. For me, it was football environment. It's like, who slept with the most girls is the most renowned guy. Do you know what I mean? You get people look up to you the most sort of thing. So I was just getting numbers and in them days.
Prolific in that department for a while, and I was never, you know, the best looking guy or anything, but I was in, like we talked about before. Certainly, once I got into my 20s and then up through to 40, basically, I was incredibly confident, you know, and I was fearless. You know, you think you're bulletproof until one day you realise you're not. But until that point, I was frightened of nothing. And that, again, can be an attractive quality to some people. That wasn't an act. That's how I felt, you know. Hey-ho.
And I think some people focus on because there's violence, ahimsa, practicing non-violence. So himsa is violence. So there's violence from physical, like it's observable that you were doing. There's violence that's psychological, like I've had parents, step-parents, relatives. That this psychological abuse. It's still violence.
Yeah, and sometimes that's far worse.
Oh yeah, 100%.
The beating's over. It happens. It's over.
Exactly,
Psychological abuse can stay with you for the rest of your life.
Totally. But one of the big things in ahimsa is this violence towards ourself. Like, am I being violent in my own mind? You know, am I following my path? Am I beating myself up inside? Have I got negative chat towards myself? What was going on for you in a violent way towards yourself in those times?
Lots of negative chat, yeah. I mean, there were dark times I'd say I'd been suicidal a few times in my life, but maybe not suicidal, but just maybe a step above that, where you really don't like yourself. I was like that for a very long time, you know, and I didn't like myself. And, you know, I'd be out and everything would be great, and then I'd have time to reflect, and I'd be appalled at my behaviour and loads of inner turmoil. I just didn't like myself, you know, and life's better when you love yourself, isn't it? You know, and that's not in a conceited way, but you need to love yourself, because then you'll be in a state of bliss and you'll appreciate your good qualities. There's nothing wrong with focusing on those, and that's what you give out to everybody else. If you don't love yourself, that will be apparent, and you're either going to be depressed or not a nice person externally, aren't you?
Yeah. But then it's kind of like being easy on yourself after the event, knowing that those things that we've done is our interpretation of a series of things that have happened, or expectations from either the society, the area that you live in, like Bolton, the parents that you've got, the granddad's reputation. It's all like pressure on you to become this thing, and then you become this thing, and you look at it and you go, it's fucking horrible. Do you know what I mean? But that to have that realization, some people will just carry on being horrible until the day that they die.
Yeah. Well, I think when you wake up and you realise, okay, I'm not this person. My past doesn't define me. I'm whatever I choose to be from this point forward. And I'm going to choose to give out love, and I'm going to choose to show compassion, and I'm going to choose bliss. And simple change in direction. That's already happened. Take the lessons from it and move forward in a different direction. That can start right now.
Exactly.
Today.
It's a choice. It's a choice away, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like I still go in my mate's pub, all the lads I used to play football with, and they're still talking about how hard people are. You know what I mean? Like,
he's
like,
hard.
He's hard.
Cock at school,
and like,
Cock at Bolton, and
fucking 15. Like, he's talking about how bad people are. Like, yeah, if you're talking about boxing or a sport, like someone who's like the elite, but 45-year-olds in your local area, who gives a flying fuck?
This is.
I just look at it baffled. I'm like, what?
What's quite sad is your people that most people. I say sometimes a nervous breakdown is a necessary part of a spiritual awakening. It's part of the process. The shell's got to crack. You know, you've got to undo it, dismantle everything, and start again. Because when you put something together and it's not right for 40 years, you can't then build on top of it sometimes. You've got to take it down and start again, get the foundations right, and then back up again. And so when you see somebody that's 50, 55, 60, that's still brawling, that's still giving it all this with the chest out when they go to the bar, that still speaks in a certain way to people, smaller people, homosexual people, women, whichever, a bully, you know, this kind of thing. When you see that, that's really sad, because imagine never waking up and spending your whole life in that turmoil. I've had enough of that turmoil now. I'm good, thanks, ready. Let's start with love and compassion.
Exactly.
Don't want to be doing that all my life. I couldn't do another 40 years like the last one. It's been great. I've enjoyed it. We've got here, but I don't want to do it again.
Totally.
No.
Totally. So let's dip into that. Some people might not like this who are listening to the show, but like for me, I had some great times getting off my tits. I had some created some great friendships, which I guess probably 90% of them I realise now weren't that great, but they seemed enjoyable relationships. Like, what were the most enjoyable things or happiest times during that for you?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you one story. I touched on it briefly the other day. I went to Glastonbury. It's a very random series of events, you know, Lemony Snicket's series of events or whatever.
Yeah.
And I ended up, I'd fallen out, I think, with my father. So I drove to Bristol to stay with my sister. I got a job down the road in a tofu factory. I started working in the tofu factory, and it was about 10 miles from the house or the flat. I was sleeping on the front room floor. Poor Bernadette put up with me. I don't know if she managed, but there we go. I walked there and back every day. It was like a 2.5, 3 hour walk to work and back. Yeah. And in that period, then Glastonbury popped up, and I'd never been to Glastonbury. And I was gambling. I was addicted to gambling. And I'd gambled a lot of money, and so I wanted to go and I couldn't. And I'd run out of money, basically. And I had one last bet, and I put this bet on. And it won. It was about an hour before everybody was leaving to Glastonbury. So I said, I'm coming. So I got in this car, went to Glastonbury, and there was a guy got in the car. The music was on. People walked past the house. We're all meeting to go to Glastonbury. A guy got in the car, and he's come in and said, yeah, come in, everything. He said, right, who are you getting in the car with? I went, oh, well, I was getting with those and everything. And we said, on the way, we realised nobody knew him. He was just walking past the house, and he'd ended up going to Glastonbury with us. Right? So we then, me and this lad, we had LSD at the time, amongst other things, but we had LSD. So he was tripping. And then I must be the only person ever in Glastonbury to have a fight in Glastonbury. This guy came up to me and grabbed my blanket. Now, I had no tent. I wasn't equipped. I intended to stay up for 4 days. Most people go and that might happen. I intended it. I was going to party. And the guy nicked my blanket, I said, what are you doing? He said, I need a blanket. I said, well, it's my blanket, give it back. He went, no. And then he took his top off. I ended up having a brawl in the middle of Glastonbury over a blanket. The guy who was with us was tripping. Went, what's happening? What's happening? I didn't know. He'd never had a trip before either. He didn't know us, didn't know where he was, and never had a trip. So this guy bolted. I ended up on my own. I'd lost all my friends and I had no blanket. So I went up to the stone circle and I saw these lights in the distance. I went up, wandered up, and I could hear this drums. I thought, oh yeah, that's all right. Yeah, I'll have some of that. Go and sit up there. And as I walked up, everybody's dancing around. And I thought, oh yeah, I'm having some of this. Well, as I got realer, I realised everybody was taking clothes off. Everybody was bollock naked dancing around this stone circle. I thought, nobody knows me. I'm in. And stripped off bollock naked and dancing around to these bongos at a stone circle. So that was a good time.
I thought he was going to end it with, I couldn't find my clothes then and had 3 days of Glastonbury naked.
I was that guy.
Lost all my clothes.
I was that guy. You know when you see somebody run past you naked screaming in the middle of Glastonbury? That was me.
So that was that your first experience with the stone circle then? The drumming?
Yeah. So, yeah, that's just one story. Obviously, there's hundreds of stories like that from that period. But, yeah, I mean, you know when you're fully present and you really don't give a shit about the next day or the next day or the next day. All you're focused on is having fun at that moment when you're winging it. And as a kid, you like that. And you don't think too far ahead. You're just having fun, you know. And I had a lot of fun, you know, a lot of fun. So...
Yeah. That's what I was like with having a spiritual awakening. It was like a year before the end of the Mayan calendar, before the shift into the age of the feminine, this 5,600 year circle. I was like, oh, brilliant. I've had a really good time and now I can take things a little bit more, you know, seriously, like sort my shit out. I was like, oh, brilliant. I've got a year to do it. And I felt like I'd had, you know, all that trauma, but a lot of good times as well. And that's what it is. Like when people talk to me now about, oh, I'm fucked, I've lost my job, I've reached rock bottom, everything's fucked. I'm like, brilliant. That's the most amazing thing you've ever told me. I've been waiting for this moment, for you to give me this call for so long. Congratulations. Do you think you're right at the bottom? Is there anything can get any worse? Oh, well, okay. Let's wait for that then. Let's get right to the bottom. Because like you said before, destroying everything, dismantling it, it's got to all go. It's totally all got to go.
You can't half do it.
No.
Because if this bit's still shit and you've still got your ego or you're still a bit angry or it won't work. Yeah. That's what a nervous breakdown is. It's breaking down, you know, your structure, the system that you built, how you operate. Strip it right down, start again. You know, you can't find yourself until you lose yourself. You've got to let go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To find home. Just let go and God will provide the net.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But I love that. When if you say that to somebody and they say, yeah, I've lost my job and this, my wife's left me and I've just crashed my car, and you go, brilliant. They're going to think, you cold-hearted bastard.
One of my cousins, like, he lost his job and he rang me. It's happened a few times with different situations. And he rang me, he's like, oh, I've lost my job. I was like, fantastic. I said, what with these, you know, the world's are waiting for you now. There's loads of jobs out there. What do you want to do? And he said, we're on the call and I hated you and then you kept talking and I was like, oh yeah, oh no, I can do that thing now. Oh, there's that other job that I saw. And you're so blinded in the moment that you can't see out of it. And everybody else was giving him sympathy. Oh, I feel so sorry for you. You know, like when people post stuff on Facebook, it's just asking for sympathy. I'm like, nah, mate, you're not getting. Let's go to facts.
I know exactly what you mean. When somebody's on the down low and they're going this way and they're giving out this vibe and everything's not going well and this has happened, that has happened. If you don't match that frequency and say, oh, well, it's all right, tomorrow's another day, they don't resonate with that. It doesn't feed what they want at that time. And it really grinds them. They don't like to hear it. A couple of days later, when they're feeling better, they're going, he was right. But at the time, you know yourself, somebody's really happy and positive and you're pissed off. You have two different energies, you know. And it's this person that needs to make the shift.
Totally.
Never lower your energy to match this energy. You can give sympathy to a point, but you need to say, come and see the view.
Exactly.
You know, take the hand. Come and have a look what's up here. It's nice.
It's like when you go to a funeral, everyone's got the funeral faces on, aren't they? Yeah. And you're like, I'm still going to have a chat and a good time.
Yeah.
I've not seen this person for years. Should we have a conversation? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we're paying respects, but I'm sure that in spirit they want us to be here. We've not seen each other. Let's have a good time. Let's celebrate the life. Let's not. Got my funeral face on. Got my funeral walk on.
At the end of the day,
I mean?
you celebrate the time that was, not regret the time that isn't. Okay, sometimes you can't just switch to that, and you're going to be very upset, and I get all of that. And grieving's a process you go through, but it should be joyous eventually. Once you've gone through that mire at the end, you should look back and think, what a life, and I knew that person, and remember all the good things, because naturally our brain, you'll think of good things and bad things. Over time, the bad things always dissipate and the good things magnify, and you remember the good things. You always do.
Even sometimes when some people have told me about someone's died who's like old and been suffering for a bit, he's like, oh, my grandma died. I'm like, oh, that's amazing. Like, and they're going, what? And I'm like, she's been suffering, like, you know, she's in eternal bliss now. Like, how amazing. Like, she'll be really happy now. Like, she's not in this world of suffering. And they go, and then they go, yeah, you're right. And you know, and it's that, you can't say it so much with younger people but it's still, we're all on this path, and it doesn't matter how long we've lived, we can still live a full life if we've been 7 and died, you know what I mean? And, or the thing where people go, oh, they were too young to die. And I'm like, but there's no such thing. Like, everybody dies at every age. People die before they're born, you know? Yeah.
This is the thing as well at the minute. A lot of people are so worried about dying, they're not living.
Exactly, mate. There's no point.
No. Do you want to spend the next 30 years in the current situation, or would you rather just live your life and you might only last 10? I live my life, thanks.
Exactly. I'd live my life for a month.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like, I'll just live my life for a month. But that it's just so fear orientated. Like, if the society that most people are stuck in now, where they're in this fear-based thing, if I was up in heaven and God went, I'm going to send you down there to that reality that they've created, I'd be like, nah, I'm all right. It's fucking an insane asylum. No, if I need to go and learn something really deep and heavy that I've not learned, send me, but I don't really fancy it.
No. I mean, I had a conversation like this recently, where if I was born into any period, it wouldn't be now. I would much 100%. Rather have been this age in the 60s and 70s, born maybe in 1950, this era, before the phones, the computers, the internet, the text messages, the emails, before all of that, before all these television channels, before everybody's, because life was a lot simpler then, and simplify. The less tech, the less stuff, the less material possessions, generally, the better the quality of life.
Totally, man.
There are communities that exist in the UK even, where people are living, together. They bought a piece of land, they're existing, they're eco-friendly, with the building, they grow their own veg, things like this, so they're self-sustainable. They've taken the technology out of their life, and from what I've seen anyway, it looks wonderful,
Because everyone just assumes you have to wear a bonnet and have a horse and cart and be a Mormon to crack on with stuff like that. Yeah. But, you can still have a good time. Yeah. And that's the thing that I was talking about, like, we had this good time when we were taking drugs. You have this spiritual awakening. And for me, like, when it first happened, I thought, I have to take everything serious. I can't have a good time anymore. I've got to be really disciplined with everything. Yeah. And then you sort of bed into it a little bit. And I'm having a better time than I've ever had. And I feel better. I don't have the boom, boom, boom. I'm on this equilibrium of, like, the path of the yogi.
It's sustainable rhythm. This very small fluctuations like this. There's always going to be oscillations, fluctuations and variations. But you do not want to be doing this up, down, feeling great, feeling shit, feeling great. You want to just feel nice.
Yeah, baby. What are your best tips for Patrick? What are the things that just keep you on a level?
Keep me on a level. Meditation. For 5 years, I never missed a day. I meditated morning and night. And when I was doing certain courses and retreats, I might even meditate for many hours. But now it's not like that. And like you said, I don't know, I sort of cut myself a bit more slack these days. But I meditate. I have a yoga practice, again, not every day, but most days. Running, massive for me. Going ultra running, being up in the trails.
Guys, it's not just a run. This guy is a proper runner. I go for a run for 45 minutes. He goes, I'm just going out on the trails for 3 hours.
Yeah. being in nature and running really helps to sort my mind out, But there's other things as well. I think people forget that your diet's massively important. You put crap in your body, you're going to feel crap. It's pretty easy. You are what you eat, you know. Put good stuff in there, you know, filtered water. Don't eat as much, because we don't need to eat as much as we do. And you start to feel good. Your energy levels are better and stuff. And a huge one is surrounding yourself with people, you know, your tribe, the people that have the same vibe as you, that energy. Because if you're with those people, and I know because I've experienced it many times, especially if you're not feeling great, it picks you up, you know. We lift each other's human spirit. I can make you feel good and you can make me feel good. And put two people like that together and it's just one big party, isn't it?
Totally, man. And you like make sure the people that you associate with are fantastic, because you're the average of the 7 people you spend the most time with.
Remove the negative people from your life. If you're a spiritual person and when you're experiencing bliss and you emit that frequency, the negative people in your life, you're not going to feed the energy they need. You're not going to resonate with them. And if you don't feed that, they'll move away from you. They're not getting what they need. Positive people, you'll be feeding those and they'll be drawn toward you. And you'll end up, it's a natural process where however you're feeling here, that's what you attract. And you're going to end up with, by design, it's just going to happen, beautiful people around you when you're emitting love, peace and giving compassion.
Yeah. And, you know, I think all the stuff in the with the coronavirus and stuff's bullshit, but dickheads, keep them 2 meters away. Do you know what I mean? Don't let them into your energy field. Keep them over there, man. Give me that social distancing sign. He's a dickhead there, bro.
You know, a DJ, if you're wearing a mask, stay 2 meters away from me.
Exactly, man, yeah. I don't know if you want to talk about this or not, but how long you been with your missus for?
Nearly 10 years, yeah.
And where was you at psychologically when you met her?
I was not in a good place. Yeah, I mean, I'd met her before all this happened, so she knew me when I was taking piles of cocaine and fighting. I mean, she'll remember, I came home one night, I was just covered in blood. You know, head to toe covered in blood. I've been scrapping. And yeah, it was very turbulent. Our relationship in the beginning was turbulent, and that was predominantly because of me, you know, because I was unstable. And we split up a couple of times, then we got back together, and then we were actually engaged at one point. I then broke it off. I realised I decided that I just did not want to get married again, because I'd been married once before and it wasn't a great experience. But then I had my nervous breakdown and I went through what I call the shift, midlife crisis, spiritual awakening, whatever you want to call it. And I changed, and she's seen the change in me. And she's seen me through this whole period. And yeah, about 10 years. And yeah, I'm quite a private person, you know, and in some elements of my life, some parts of my life. But we have the expression I call us quantumly entangled. And it means, and we all go QE, but QE is quantumly entangled. And basically, she usually knows what I'm thinking. And if I'm not having a good day, she'll know. No phone call, no nothing. You know, you can be connected to somebody on that level. So a long time, yeah.
And she's obviously happy with you the way you are now.
I hope so.
But does she think everything you do is mad, or is she like vibing off it?
No, she vibes off it. She loves what we do. Yeah, we have a nice life.
Where do you see, where do you want to take Midnight Patrick? Where's his, like, I know obviously the path's never ending, but where do you see yourself in 10 years? Kept on your path, kept centered, and you're in your bliss. Where are you in 10 years' time?
Well, what's difficult is at the minute, this is one project. I've got 7 projects I'm trying to take off the ground at the minute, and I've got a list of about another 30. I've so much I want to do. I've just so much I want to do, and that includes, I've had to pull the plug on the writing, and the second book's written, and I wanted to write 7, and I started the third one, and there's so much I want to do, and I don't think I'll ever get it all done in this lifetime, you know. But I love doing this. I love doing the radio. I love writing, but it's very time consuming, and when you're doing that, you can't do much else. So the writing's going to
takes over, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's on the back burner for now. The writing, maybe that'll be something I pursue again in a little bit later in life. But doing this. I'd like this really to take off, because I've got to be honest, all the things I've done in my life, all the little projects I've done, this is the one that I've loved the most. I love it. Yeah. I love doing this. Every week, you know, I get to meet one, maybe two new people, part of a spiritual community, some amazing people like yourself.
Might just like you've made friends with friends of mine from it. I've made friends with friends of yours from just doing that show. It's like, boom.
Yeah, that's how it happens. And yeah, so I'm hoping I can keep doing this. And, you know, I'd like to have a bigger studio. I'd like to employ a few people full time. There's things I want to do. If I can keep doing this, I'm a happy chappy.
But if something else comes in that brings you more joy, you practice non-attachment. So it's
absolutely. This path is never. I never know where it's going to end. Yeah. I'll aim somewhere, and then something will happen, and I'll readjust. And it's always changing. You know. For example, I do the radio, and I like doing the radio, and we did say that if the opportunity, you know, if I got a certain job offer within radio, then that might be what I pursue. You know, you never know what's around the corner, do you? So just do what you love, and the universe, just let go of everything, and the universe will, you know, usually correspond to the nature of your song.
Exactly. And when something comes in, sit with it. Does it resonate? Is it the best thing for my path, for my soul? Get the answer, wait for the answer, and the answer will come.
When I was teaching meditation, I thought, this is it. But then I thought, no, I'm going to write a book. No, this is it. Then I thought, the radio, this is
You're
it.
like me, mate.
Yeah, and then I'm doing the radio and I think, no, I'm going to do some video stuff. And it's constantly changing and evolving. It always does. So I usually do a project, get it to a certain point, and then there'll be something else that excites me, and I move on to that. But at the minute, this is still going strong. This is what I want to do. But the beauty of this is I can do different things. So within this studio, I can do different projects. So that does keep it interesting, you know, like doing this show, or I'm doing a special project with Sally Bolton at the minute, and doing a series of videos with her.
Is she from Bolton?
Yes, she is actually, yeah. And I'm going to do a project with Sandy Holt as well. And got lots going on. So it's good.
Happy days. And so how does that, I guess it just for you, does it just look like you just grow in this spiritual community? Is there a specific utopia that you see at the end of it all?
Well, I think I probably can't answer that question that well, but what I would say is that if I had a bigger premises here, I'd have other people doing the elements of this that are very time consuming, and I'd be doing one of these every single day. You know, and bringing people in, and rather than trying to acquire guests, which I used to do in the beginning, now I don't. Most people get in touch with me and say, well, actually, I know I've done an interview with you, want to meet this guy, or you want to meet this lady, and it just evolves. But just this, but on a bigger, better scale, possibly. Yeah,
this was like one of the maddest things, like reading your book. I was like, you had a stroke in your 20s.
Yeah.
I was like, how does that happen?
Yeah, well, it happens for lots of reasons, but one is working, 140 hours a week, something like that. Also having a terrible diet, and also taking drugs. A combination of those, probably. And I was at a mate's house, and I was having tea with him, and then I just dropped my plate on the floor, and my arm went all floppy, and I thought, what the fuck's this like? And I couldn't feel my arm. And then he took me to the hospital, and then I had that was the first episode. I had 2 or 3 episodes, and I was paralysed. My face all went down one side, and I couldn't speak. My voice had gone. Couldn't use my tongue. Couldn't feel my tongue. And what's terrifying is you think, shit, this might be it. I might never recover from this, because you don't know you're going to recover with a stroke. You really don't. And took me 6 months to recover from that, and I was on a lot of painkillers, and really frightening times. And I made a full recovery, which, because I was very young, so I was lucky. But if you abuse yourself, you don't sleep, you don't eat properly, what you do eat is crap, you drink really heavily, you take drugs, and you're angry inside, and your system's full of tension and stress, you'll keel over. It's just a matter of time, isn't it? You're going to have a heart attack, you're going to have a stroke, you're going to have a panic attack, you're going to become very ill.
Did that wake you up in a certain aspect
of
diet?
It definitely slowed me down for a while, because it scares you. It's a health scare is the, one of the worst scares you can have, because don't matter how much money you've got, don't matter who you know, when your health's knackered, you So you need to look after yourself. So I started to look after myself a bit more for a little while, and then I did it all again. Yeah.
So you needed another wake
Oh
up.
yeah, I've had a few. I've had a few, yeah.
Jesus, I thought a stroke could wake most people up.
Yeah.
You were strong, mate.
It
You were
did
resilient.
for a while.
You were resilient.
Yeah.
Resilient to the awakening. So, when was the last time you were physically violent?
It's a while ago now. It's probably about 6 or 7 years ago. Last time, I mean, that's not that long ago, is it? I was 41, something like that. And I think I was in a venue in Bolton. Mm-hmm. Somebody come up, started giving me shit, and I just went, just pack it in, I'm not interested. Wouldn't stop. This went on for a while. And I snapped, I lost it, and I beat him up and dragged him outside. That happened. Yeah, that's the last time I was violent. And that was my juice free, my nervous breakdown.
Right, okay.
Yeah, that was the last time I was violent.
And when you was violent that time, was there how did it make you feel? Awful.
Yeah, felt awful, yeah. I probably had thoughts about it after that, but that was the last time I actually reacted. And I think prior to that, it had gone from being, as I was younger, it was, very frequent, every week, every week, literally. And then it thinned out a little bit, but then when it did thin out, it may be that the events were less frequent, but they were more significant. There's an incident, if anybody knows me in Bolton, there was an incident. I can't give too many details because, I don't want to get arrested. But there was an incident in Bolton at a certain venue, and I beat somebody up outside, and that was about 10 years ago. And that was messy, it wasn't good. Admittedly, the person, I don't think anybody would question the person had it coming, it wasn't a nice person. And I wouldn't say that usually it was my fault, I might think there was justification, there wasn't, but on this occasion, I wasn't a nice person. But that was, the events were less frequent, but when they happened, when I did blow, it was get out.
It's like you're making up for the fact
way,
you hadn't had one for a while.
Yeah, and it was, it wasn't good. Yeah. But then the one after that, about 6-7 years ago, was less significant. It was just, I punched someone in the head about 10 times. Not great, but, I didn't cause them, they weren't hospitalised.
And so since that last act, how many times have you been put in situations where you would typically have reacted like that?
Oh, probably loads, But those thoughts don't even come to my head anymore. They're gone, I can get annoyed. It's very... It doesn't happen very often, but that can happen. But I'd like to say that I might get a little bit vexed or annoyed, but I don't get angry. I never raise my voice because that's not in me, it's just not there. And I don't have violent thoughts. There's one exception. And I can't give you details about it, but there was a time, and it's actually only about a year ago, and somebody did something to me that was horrible. And I had violent thoughts, and that made me feel really, really didn't sit well with me at all. It's the only time for years that I had those violent thoughts, and it felt very alien. But so anyway, last time I raised my voice was probably about, 3 or 4 years ago, something like that. It's a while ago, I remember it, But it's not, I'm restraining myself from raising my voice because I'm angry and I don't want to express that. I'm not angry and I don't want to raise my voice. I don't need to. And I've learned this beautiful thing about you can try to change somebody's mind or you can have a conversation with somebody, but if it ain't working, it's to move away. Totally. Step back, I'm not going to match your frequency. Whatever you're doing, I don't want to do that. Like I always used to say, there's in order for there to be conflict, there has to be two sides. Refuse to be one of them. And whatever you resist, persist. If you're pushing against something like this, somebody's angry and you're doing this kind of thing, you're holding it up. The second you take away that resistance, it disappears. I can be angry at you, but if you don't give it me back, I'm just shouting into nothing, aren't I? It's not doing anything.
And I think, it doesn't mean being spiritual, being non-violent. You're not going to take shit off people. It's still like, whoa, mate, no, that's unacceptable. I'm still going to tell you when you're out of line, but I'm not going to get angry. And then what I'm also not going to do, which is the biggest teaching and the biggest blessing, is I'm not going to carry that with me afterwards.
Yeah.
It's happened.
Flap your wings
Boom.
and shake it off like a
Bosh,
swan.
get on with my day, you know what I mean? Come home and I'm like, oh yeah, you okay? How you doing? What happened to you? Oh, and then maybe you'll tell the story afterwards, not come through the door. This bit, you know what I mean? And it's like, whoa. And that's what, like, you were talking about the construction industry before. My stepdad would come home and he'd bring everything home with him.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like a surgeon bringing what's happened in the hospital home. It's like not acceptable.
I talk about this, that you can have somebody, if you're not in a good place, you've had a bad day, and your family are all at home here, or your partner, whatever, you need to readjust. You need to lower your reduce your anxiety, stress, whatever. And so if I felt like that, I would go and have a minute. I'd go and park up and just sit for a minute, whatever. And you need to be able to undo that, because otherwise you're going to give it to everybody else, aren't you?
Exactly,
you know what I mean? So that's where a little bit of a toolkit, some skills to reduce your stress levels come in, you know. Yeah, really important.
A lot of adults don't have that toolkit.
Some people, and you forget, because my world is surrounded by beautiful people most of the time, and it is, I'm very fortunate, but you forget that for some people, that's completely normal. It used to be normal for me 15, 20 years ago or whatever, but it's normal, and their lives are full of this stress and this conflict, and it's there every day, and they have all these... Oh, I couldn't cope with that anymore. You know, I've lost the skills to deal with that, you know. I won't let myself get there, because to be in that situation constantly, I don't think I could cope.
It's a process, because like you were saying about putting the toxins in your body, it's the same thing. You're putting them thoughts in your body and you're putting loads in and more in, then your body's going to start going, but you just put the first one in, it's like, no, that's not that, I don't need that. Boom, get away with that. It's just anger. I can choose something else.
It's when you become quite peaceful and blissful, you become aware of how you feel inside. And when you don't feel good, you might have to catch yourself, and you'll have to slip a little bit off your path, and then you think, what's wrong? Pause, stop, analyse, and you think, okay, and then you readjust. And I still have wobbles, I still have days that don't go great, but what I have done is I recognise the signs quite quickly when I'm out of sorts, out of alignment, and I have the skill set to pull myself back fairly quickly, not to let myself spiral.
Exactly.
You know?
But what the main thing in our society is that nobody takes responsibility. It's always somebody else's fault. We live in a society of blame. Yeah. So if somebody's feeling like, you know, the job, this just cut me up, bring it in with you. It's like, oh, no. Don't blame somebody else. Your condition, your state of mind is totally your responsibility.
Absolutely.
It's not at the mercy of any other circumstances that happen. Like me and my friend were talking the other night, and it's like, if this thing goes off, what's going on in the world right now, and we end up in concentration camps, we're going to be fucking fine. Do you know what I mean? All is good. Whatever situation, all is good, equilibrium.
Blame can't exist in a healthy mind. That's what Wayne Dyer used to say. You know, there's nobody else to blame. You make your own choices. You arrive somewhere, accept responsibility for that. And in doing that, some people see it as a negative thing. But the second you do that, you think, oh, so I'm responsible. I made those choices. Oh, I made those choices. Exactly. I can make different choices.
Totally. And what I can do is somebody who's projecting violence towards me, projecting hate, projecting anger, I give them compassion and love. It's like, whoa, what is going on in their life that they've got to behave like that? That's unprovoked. Like, what's going on with them? It even makes me feel emotional thinking about it now. I was talking about it in my class yesterday, because I had a little incident cycling home last night. Like, I was cycling and I was like eating some chocolate, because I was like...
Can I just tell you what I'm thinking there? Like, you're riding along and your willy pops out your pants or something. This little incident. I was flashing people. I didn't know.
Do you know what? Like, I do tree surgery, yeah? So one of the lads is up a tree, and the customer comes over, and he's up the tree and trying to, you know, the customer comes sometimes, so you get a shape right. Where do you want it lift into the tree? And she's looking up at him, and she goes, Sean, and he's talking, and she goes, Sean. She's like, what? And she went, your bollocks hanging out. Your bollocks hanging out of his ballistic trousers at the customer. So like, oh my God, hilarious. No, my bollock wasn't hanging out, brother.
So you're riding your bike on the way home and you had an incident.
So I was riding my bike home, got a flat jack because I was feeling a little bit, I was like, needed a little boost. And these two, like, proper cyclists, like, I've got leggings on and stuff, and I don't know, I've got leggings on, so maybe I look like a cyclist, and I've got a racing bike. They go past me, and then I'm just kind of keeping at their pace, just tailgating them the whole time. And we get to near Northington, so I've been with them for probably like 4 miles. And he's like, you know, when you sense there's a bit of a queue behind you, people are sort of trying to get past. And this car had plenty of space to get past, but obviously he's a bit dithery. And then I can hear like beeping, and I'm like, oh, someone's getting either angry with us or angry with the person who isn't coming past us. And the beeping's going even more, and I'm like, what? And then eventually we get to this wide stretch after about, you know, probably only 500 meters of this situation.
Yeah.
And the first car goes past me, and I'm like, oh yeah, it is. It's like a little dithering guy, like a young guy, but you know, you could tell he was a bit of a ditherer. And the next guy goes past, and he goes, "Get a fucking life!" And I'm just like, "Shut up, you prick!" I'm like, what? I was like, "Shut up, you prick!" And I was like, "Oh, was that a bit violent?" But I was just like, "That's unacceptable. Like, you can't like." But then in my head, because the two guys in front were proper cyclists with all the gear, with the cleats and stuff, I'm like, I'm not even I'm just commuting. Do you know what I mean? I wanted to get him and go, excuse me, I'm just commuting. I have got a life. And I'm like, no, that's unacceptable. Even if that is their life and their passion, how are you to judge that? And then I kind of like wanted to chase him and have a conversation with him, just to settle him, you know what I mean? But then he ended up going one way, I ended up going the other. And I was just like, how beautiful it is it? That's not part of it. I just was happy again as soon as it had gone. And I'm thinking, and I was thinking exactly that. I'm thinking, I felt so much emotion for this man. I'm like, how angry are you? How impatient are you? What's going on with your world that you have to behave like that?
That's real compassion when, for example, now there's a lot of people that are frightened, and you've got to remember that. You know, a lot of people are frightened. And so that's why maybe people are behaving the way they do. You know, somebody gets angry, and, you know, there's a little bit of turbulence in the world at the minute. And so understanding that somebody might be having a bad day. The parent could have died yesterday. The cat could have got run over this morning. They might have lots of money worries. The partner might have been having an affair. You don't know what's going on in somebody's life, do you? So, but to be able to smile again straight away, when you don't let external events affect you, you're in an emotional state, when you experience bliss and joy, and this doesn't change that. When the song inside is louder than the music outside, you're in the creation process. When this is louder than that, this isn't penetrating, this is expanding, you know.
Which is really beautiful. And what's been coming up for me a lot recently is knowing that in our civilization, there's nobody just goes and sits and does nothing. Indigenous cultures, there's long periods of time where someone will just go and sit by a tree and just do nothing. We have to be doing something all the time. I guess the only time I do it is when I'm like sunbathing or something, but I'm still doing something. I'm sunbathing, you know what I mean?
It's like we're all in this race, all going at 100 miles an hour, and there's no finish line in sight. You know, we're just going 100 miles an hour till we die. Exactly. No finish line.
So when can we like step out of it and think it like I'm trying to implement that of just, even if I know you say it's having a bath, but can I get in the bath and just listen to the trees and the traffic? And do I have to have a podcast on? Do I have to be listening to music? Can I listen to the sound of the water? Can I breathe in the water? Can I smell the scent of the bubble bath that I've got in? Where I've got all these exterior factors going on. None of that really counts, does it? It's filtered out.
I think for me, certainly if you're on holiday, you're in a nice place and the sun's shining, I generally do switch off really well then, you know, especially when the sun's shining. I love the sun on my body. It's just a beautiful feeling, isn't it?
I'd like some right now, bro.
I know. I feel you.
But it'll come when it comes, and you know, May's not that far away. April's not that far away. Usually get my top off in April, get a bit of vitamin D, bit of sun on your skin, feeling healthier, which is beautiful. What does Midnight still need to work on?
Oh God, there's a big list. Yeah.
What would be your top 3?
Things I need to work on. Balance. I do things to the extreme. Always have done. I still do it. I do healthy things to the extreme now, but I still extreme. I really struggle with balance. When I find something that I'm passionate about, I can't half do it. I just want to do it all the time. I think the other thing is sort of running hand in hand with that is sort of time management. I struggle to fit things in, and I need to factor in, I need to prioritise things that, like the meditation and the yoga should always come before everything else, but I don't always do that.
Yeah.
And I think the third thing is my relationship with money. And I've either got lots of it or none of it. That's generally how it goes, up and down, left and right. And I struggle to find any kind of sustainable rhythm with money. And I wish that could change, because it would mean my life would be less stressful, shall I say. But yeah, probably those 3 things. I think most of the time I'm pretty nice to be around. I know that I need to have time on my own, so that means that when I do engage with other people, I'm pretty happy. I love my life. I love my friends. I love the people that I spend my time with. I'm a happy guy. Yeah.
Something to be proud of, isn't it, man? There's a lot of work gone into it.
You have no idea.
Another thing that come up from the book, which is something that I struggle with, is knee issues, man. You talk about, your meditation practice and how a lot of your physical ailments just
went.
Yeah, disappeared through meditation.
Well, straight away, your body is a miraculous healing machine. It can heal almost anything. In fact, some people recover from cancer, some don't. Some people don't recover from cancer. It can heal almost anything when it's operating correctly and your mind's right. It's designed, you cut yourself, it heals. If you put tension in the system, it becomes rigid. Things don't flow, your circulation, your lymphatic system, the energies around your body, you've got blockages, you're stressed, you're tense, you're anxious. Get your mind right, and everything starts to flow, and it's flexible, and it starts to heal, repair and grow. So once you meditate and you become happy, they say disease can't exist in a happy mind. If you're in a state of bliss, you're very unlikely to get ill. They reckon 90 to 95% of all illness is psychosomatic, and that means that basically if your mind isn't right, then you develop the illness. But and people might say, no, it can't be. Well, actually, if you read my book, it is. I'm quoting real statistics there's a board panel that deals with health insurance, and they provided these statistics. If your mind isn't working right, you won't sleep properly. And if you don't sleep properly, you become anxious. You won't eat properly. You won't have, you'll have mood dips. You won't have a lot of energy. You can see how this cycle, and that all just comes from having a busy mind. So a healthy mind, things start to work a lot better. Your joints included. I think a lot of people, if you get arthritis, for example, think that what I'll do, I've got bad knees, I won't use my knees. Au contraire, no. Use your knees. If you stop using something, it's going to seize up. It's like a clock or a watch. You need to keep the cogs moving. So my knees were knackered. And I went to Bolton Hospital and had them x-rayed, and they wanted to, do 3 operations on each knee, give me new knees potentially. And I wasn't going to be able to run, let alone maybe not even walk. I was going to be in the right state. And so I ignored them and I started running. And then I ran a bit, then Ironman, and then obviously into marathons, ultramarathons, etc. And ran. And my ligaments, my tendons, the arthritis, completely healed. I don't mean feels a bit better of it. It's gone.
So do you think they healed from doing more? I
think they healed from being in a happy state, from having a mind that was working correctly, and from using them. Yeah, use something. I mean, even if you have... For example, if you have a joint, and this is the situation, it's not working properly, if you use it over a period of time, they become smooth again. There's things that the body, in theory, can't heal, and they say it can't heal and stuff, but I believe it can.
Joe Dispenza just talks about how you can, reprogram, you can get your body back to its... Everyone's body has an original blueprint of, pure bliss. in the bliss state, and he went, you can program your mind to heal any part of your body. Any disease within the body can be healed through the mind.
Well, I definitely 100% believe that. I don't know who that fella is, but yeah, I believe that, absolutely.
Yeah, he basically healed
Jody,
his whole
is it a bloke
spine.
or a female?
Joe Dispenza, he's a bloke.
Oh, I know who he is. Sorry, it's the way you said it with your Manc accent. I thought you said Joey Dispenza or something. Joe Dispenza.
Joe Dispenza, you
yeah,
do know
I know
him.
who he is. Yeah,
He's awesome. So, yeah, I guess we just like start to wrap up the show, but would that be your biggest medicine for anybody then? If you was advising anybody, like as Dr. Midnight,
okay,
what would you prescribe them with?
I think we'd have to go and start with the meditation. Get the mind quiet, experience some part of your day, introduce a little bit of stillness. Get this right. Everything else in your life will start to improve. If you get your mind right, it pervades into every aspect of your life. You'll start to hang around with nicer people. Genuine, nice new friends will appear out of nowhere. The job that you wanted to do all along, something you love to do, it will happen. The universe will help you. All these cogs are working in the background. And if you experience a state of bliss and you meditate and you become peaceful, everything else will take care of itself. That's all you've got to do. It is the number one priority. You might have to, apply some energy somewhere. It's, it helps if you join in and assist the universe. But number one, the mind, and there's a joke quote in the back of the book, and I say, mind first, bum second, And a lot of people put the physical side of, the attributes first, they're super fit. But if this ain't working right, it's not enough. Get this right. You'll naturally start to want to eat healthy foods. Exactly. You won't want to put a big, juicy, greasy burger in you when you're feeling really nice and, light and you good energy and everything's floating around. You won't want to eat crap. Everything will take care of itself. So yeah, I'd say start at the beginning. Start and try and develop a small meditation practice.
Yeah, and what I said, because it's even just a small meditation practice for some people seems overwhelming. And I think something really simple that I teach a lot of my students is pick one moment every day. Something happens and that's beautiful. It might be the interaction with a child. It might be a landscape. It might be a piece of art. You know what I mean? Just step back from your existence and go, that's my moment today.
Yeah.
I'm taking that one in. I'm banking it. That means you've been present for one moment in that day. And that's a perfect place to start from.
I think the reason why a lot of people struggle with even a small amount of meditation is Blaise Pascal says all man's problems stem from his inability to sit quietly in a room on his own. When you're sat in the darkness on your own, when there's nothing else there, and there's no external distraction, no noise, there's nowhere to hide. You've got to deal with your shit. It's never going to go away. Deal with it. Once you deal with it and address it and face your problems head on, they dissipate, they disappear, they dissolve, and usually don't come back.
Perfect. Thank you, brother. It's been...
Thank you, Liam. Thank you very much.
Absolutely amazing. Thanks for giving me this opportunity to flip the tables on you.
What a wonderful journey that interview was. That was lovely. Thanks.
I loved it, man. There's loads of levels. It's like we're on a little roller coaster, but a really enjoyable one.
Yeah, lovely.
So thank you.
Interspersed with ridiculous amounts of laughter.
Exactly.
Well.
And the bollock.
Yeah. I've forgotten about that bollock now. I can't get it out of my head.
Brilliant. No, it's been amazing, man. And really appreciative of the friendship and
wonderful
all the connections that we've been making together. Yeah. And that's everybody. That's the show. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you soon. That was me flipping the tables on Midnight McBride. Have a beautiful week, everyone. Shalom. Shalom, brother.
Shalom, brother. Boo! Booyah!
Booyah!
Awesome.
Sweet!
Awesome.